Today, we're doing two NFL player props here on PrizePicks for Sunday, November 17th. I believe this is week 10 or 11, actually, of the NFL season. Pretty crazy how quickly the season has come and gone. But before I get started, you guys, check me out on Twitter. I've been trying to post daily plays of the days. Actually, I have been posting daily plays of the days. 10-3 run on Twitter. I do full write-ups. Like, for example, at the time of me recording this video, Anthony Edwards over 40.5 fantasy score was the play of the day for Friday. I do full write-ups on Twitter. So, again, if you just want some extra content, I'm trying to do daily plays of the day at Tough Picks on Twitter. Just at Tough Picks is my Twitter account. Go ahead and follow me on there. Also, I want to talk about Daily Grind Fantasy, you guys. The DFS optimizer over at Daily Grind Fantasy, absolute elite tool. I don't know, some of you guys play esports, some of you guys play like hockey. Again, there's a variety of different sports on PrizePicks, whether an underdog, parlay play, better picks, sleeper. Link in the description below gets you 25% off your first month over at the Daily Grind Fantasy. Obviously, they have the DFS optimizer, DFS middling, fantasy scores, AI slip generator, a bunch of different tools to help add plays into your parlays. Like for example, right now, currently on the board, it takes the lines from all the major sports books and compares them what they are on PrizePicks, giving us a percentage odds to hit. Like Kyle Pitts over 3.5 receptions here. It's at minus 145 on Caesars, or sorry, minus 135 on BetMGM, minus 139 on Caesars. And over on Fliff, it's minus 160, right? And it's pretty much even odds over on PrizePicks, obviously, because there's no like odds on PrizePicks, right? It's more or less, and you hit or you miss. But at 3.5 is some value, 54.8% odds to hit. Even Khalil Shakir under 5.5, because again, it's listed on FanDuel under 5.5 minus 160. This will probably both of these. I mean, I could see Kyle Pitts jumping to 4 soon. And then Khalil Shakir probably dropping down to 5 at some point. That's usually how it works. And again, this Daily Grind Fantasy DFS Optimizer updates in real time. So again, there's a link in the description below, 25% off your first month. Absolute elite tool. But let's get right into it, you guys. Two player props for Sunday football, NFL. Let's get into it. November 17th. First play I'm looking at here, George Pickens. I like his over 13.5 fantasy score. Again, if you don't have fantasy score on your the platform you use or on your PrizePicks, receiving yards is strong. I also like receptions targets, right? Like normally when a wide receiver specifically, like I'm betting on fantasy score line and they don't have it, you could definitely pivot to reception targets, which obviously shows great volume. But yeah, receiving yards, I mean, any of his props really at this point for George Pickens, I like him. But 13.5 fantasy score, we're looking at this game. Home game for Pittsburgh, huge matchup, playoff implications. 7-3 Ravens, 7-2 Steelers, obviously the divisional matchup. 48.5 point game total. And Baltimore's 3-point favorites here. So if we're just going off game script, game environment, we should see pretty high scoring game here. And we should see, Baltimore. I mean, Steelers have a good defense, so we'll see. But I like the Steelers to have to throw the ball in this one. And George Pickens, since Russell Wilson has become the quarterback, 22.1, 11.4, and 20.5 PPR fantasy points, right? 5 catches for 111 and a touchdown, 4 catches, 74 yards and a touchdown. And then in this game, by the way, like I think 1, maybe 2 touchdowns got called back, right? Just to show you guys the upside. And then last week, 5 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown for George Pickens. He also had a rushing attempt, which was interesting as well. Just running a ton of routes. Obviously, Russell Wilson's number one option, but it's just an elite matchup. On the season now, the Ravens allowing the most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. Like, literally, without question, the most wide receiver points per game to the position. And then we look at George Pickens. Over 4.5 receptions, it was on PrizePicks. It got wiped off because these lines are moving quickly. But you can see here, minus 150 over on Caesars, minus 130 on Bet365. So, books favoring 4.5 receptions over. Obviously, it's not going to be on here. But if we take a look at George Pickens and we see games where he catches 5 passes, the upside for him is obviously extremely high, right? I mean, only under this line in one game when he catches at least 5 passes, 10.7. If you go back to last season in games where he catches 5 passes, right, the floor is pretty high for this. And George Pickens, even last year, had some massive games, and he was sharing targets last year with Deontay Johnson. And now Deontay Johnson is completely gone, and George Pickens is the alpha wide receiver 1. And also, I mean, Mike Williams now on the team. I think that actually helps George Pickens because it just gives They can't really put double coverage on George Pickens, especially in the red zone. George Pickens is going to be facing one-on-one coverage from the majority of the time. But we just look, like I said, George Pickens' fantasy score game log with Russell Wilson. We look at wide receivers' fantasy score game log this season versus the Ravens, locking 2+ targets. Just look at some of these games. Some wide receivers have had. Jamar Chase has had 40+. Like, this is real PPR, just normal PrizePicks scoring. 41 and 55. T. Higgins had 29. Cedric Tillman 28.9. McLaurin 23. Sutton 23.3. Elijah Moore 16. Chris Godwin 13.5. Like, these are massive games, and this isn't even. I don't even think this is every game wide receivers have placed. Like, let's just see. Pickens is reception targets at 7.5. Let's just see. He gets 4+ targets, right? Like, wide receivers I see 4+ targets against the Ravens this season. It's just massive. Like, it's ridiculous, actually. Rashee Rice in week 1 at 17.3, Elijah Moore 16.5, Jalen Tolbert 13.2, Jerry Jeudy 12.9. Like, it's just crazy. So it's a great spot, smash spot in my opinion for George Pickens. I would play this at 14, by the way. So George Pickens 13.5 fantasy is the first play. Second player I'm looking at, I gotta go back to Kareem Hunt. I like his 14.5 fantasy score. Again, if you don't have fantasy, I do really like Kareem's 83.5 rush plus reception yards as well. Like this one, if you don't have fantasy score, I think this is a great pivot. But I'm playing fantasy score here for Kareem Hunt. I think there's a ton of touchdown upside in this one. Obviously, it's a super competitive matchup here that we have. Chiefs Bills, 2-point spread, 46-point game total in Buffalo. I don't believe there's going to be any weather concerns for this one. But we look at Kareem Hunt, obviously, since he's joined Kansas City, has really been really solid. Like 10.5+ fantasy points in every single game over this line in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of 6 games, I believe, this season. 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4 of 6. Sorry, one miss coming with 13.3. But it's an absolute elite matchup as well. We know the Bills just get torched by running backs that have been all season, kind of in the rushing and the receptions yard game, specifically in the receiving. Most receiving yards, most receptions, most targets, right? But total fantasy points per game to the running back position, 21.5 fantasy points they are allowing per game. We look at Kareem Hunt and over 14, like I said, over in 4 or 6 games. And Isaiah Pacheco apparently is going to be, returning soon. He's not going to be playing this week, I believe. I doubt he's going to play this week. Actually, I'm going to check on that for you guys live right now in this video, because I don't want to lock anything in crazy with these lays, and then Isaiah Pacheco somehow for some reason active, which to me wouldn't make any sense. Where is he? Isaiah Pacheco. I got to go to his specific RotoWire down here. Won't return Sunday. So he's not going to play Sunday. That is great news for this play. I should have checked that actually more specifically, but I assumed he wasn't playing. But running backs fantasy score game log this season versus the Bills, when running backs see 5+ rushing attempts, you can see these type of games. These kind of dual threat type of running backs have had, and just running backs in general. Like, Derrick Henry 35, Devontae A. Chain 32 and 29, Breece Hall 21. James Conner 19, Ogunbowale 14.7, Jonathan Taylor 14.2, Cam Akers 12.7. Some of these running backs like Ogunbowale and Cam Akers both had 12+ against the Texans, right? So like these numbers are a little skewed. We know Kareem Hunt is the alpha. Look at the attempts that he's been seeing, the volume that he's been seeing. He saw great receiving work out the backfield last week against Denver, and so I kind of think we see the same, a little bit more increase in the backfield touches, and again, PPR fantasy scoring. So I like this spot a lot here for Kareem Hunt. So again, you guys, let me know in the comments below how you feel about these two plays. Please, again, follow me on Twitter. Drop a like on this video. Hit that subscribe button. As always, let's cash.